بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, welcome brothers and sisters to our second day in our marriage series. And although on the schedule it mentions that this lecture is supposed to be how to prepare for marriage, I thought it would be best to switch the lecture that was supposed to be after Maghrib with the one that is scheduled to be now, because this one requires more time. So our first lecture, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, for today is going to be how to select a suitable spouse. How to select a suitable spouse. And so the angle that we're going to speak about this topic is not going to be what you are to look for. Generally when we hear this topic, we learn that you should seek the sister or brother that is religious and has good deen and good character, and these are the qualities you're supposed to look for in an individual. I believe many of us know these things. Many of us know these things. However, how to attain that type of person, or how to know that this person is actually someone of good character and is someone who has good deen, that is where at times we get lost. And so in today's talk, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, we're going to delve into what we are supposed to ask the person that we are looking to marry. If we find someone that we are interested in and we want to know whether or not they are good for us for marriage, how do we come to that knowledge? How do we come to that knowledge? And so although deen is important and having good character is important, at times we find those who have good character and having good deen in terms of their worship, and they pray 5 times a day, etc., attend lectures, and you see them at the masjid, and then they still end up in divorce. They still end up in divorce. And so in most cases, the cause of divorce is due to a neglect or something that was overlooked prior to marriage. Prior to marriage. Yes, there are divorces that occur with issues that come up in marriage, meaning things that were not happening for the first few years of marriage and then started to happen within the marriage. That is true. However, in many cases, you find those who divorce saying, oh, he wasn't what I thought he was, or he wasn't who I thought he was, or she wasn't who I thought she was. So you find many people regretting the stages prior to marriage and blaming that and mentioning that as a cause for why they divorced. And so that means then that it is incumbent for us, it's very important and crucial for us to know what we are supposed to do before marriage so that we don't fall into that mistake. And obviously, while knowing that there is no way you can know every single thing about someone. There is no way you can learn every single thing about someone, because at times even many of us don't even know ourselves that well. We don't even know ourselves that well. And so the best you can do is try your best to find out as much as possible about this person so that you make at least an informed decision. So that at least you go into marriage knowing that I've looked at every angle, and then I put my trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for success in my marriage, and then you proceed. However, many of us do not do this, and we don't take the due diligence prior to marriage, and we marry based on simply emotions, that we fall in love with someone and then we marry them, or that we're attracted to them and so we believe that this is exactly who we want to marry, and so we only marry based on that, and there's many other things that we neglect and we do not look into prior to marriage. And so in this talk, inshallah ta'ala, it's going to be a guideline for us. It's going to be a guideline for us in how we approach the matter of marriage. So the scenario would look like you find out that there is a sister that you're interested in, or that there is a brother that you are interested in, and now you want to know more about them. You want to know if this is someone that is suitable for you. And so what are the steps to take? What are the things that are important to know about someone before marriage that will cause your marriage to be successful? What are some of the questions that you ask? What are the answers to those questions that you should be expecting? And so on and so forth, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And so before we delve into that, then there are some key matters, some important matters that we must take into consideration before we even begin the process with someone that we are interested in. The first one being that when you are asking these questions, you yourself have to know the answers that you are seeking. You don't just go into a situation and ask questions and you actually don't even know what you're going to do with those answers. So you ask someone, for example, how do you plan to raise your children? And then they give you a long answer exactly how they would want to raise their children. And then when you get that answer, you're sitting there thinking, is that good or is that bad? I don't even know. You yourself have to know what the right answer is. You yourself have to know the answer, and you have to learn this beforehand. Right? Any question that you end up asking should be something that is important to you. It should be something that you are either seeking, that you want this person to be like that, or that you want to find out if they are like something that you don't want. You ask them certain questions to find out if they are suitable for you. If they are suitable for you. So you ask about things that you yourself want, and they are preferences for you. And you ask about things that you do not want in a wife. For example, if you are a brother, and if you are a sister, things that you don't want in a potential husband. So before you even do that, so that you know what to do with these answers, you yourself have to know the answers that you are looking for. You yourself have to know the answers that you are looking for. The second point that is crucial before even embarking on this journey of asking questions and finding out about a particular person is that no matter what you do, you never settle if you see answers that you dislike. If you see something from an individual and you know that this is something you cannot tolerate, that this is something that you yourself do not like and cannot live with someone who is like that, do not overlook it just because you are attracted to the person. Do not overlook it just because you believe that this is someone that a lot of, for example, if it's a sister, a lot of brothers are seeking after this sister. So you have to be the one who marries her. Or from the sister side, that this is a brother who many sisters want to marry, so you want to be the sister to marry this brother. Yet when you find out about him, you find out that he has bad manners, that he has a bad relationship with his mother, for example. And then you say to yourself, oh, I'll change him. Or the brother says, I'll change her. Never do that. Never do that, because what happens is that is a huge gamble and a huge risk. Because if that does not happen and if that does not change, then it usually ends up in divorce. It usually ends up in divorce. The third matter to take into consideration before you ask any questions or begin that process is that when you do receive answers, So you've asked a bunch of questions, and now you have received the answers. Do not be hasty to make a decision right away, in acceptance or in rejection. Don't be hasty, don't rush. Contemplate on those answers. Think about those answers. Ask friends of yours or elders that you trust, for example, whether it's the brothers or whether it's the sisters. Say, for example, without mentioning who it is that you're speaking to or that you are seeking in marriage, you ask, if a brother, for example, if it's a sister, if a brother said to you such and such, how would you take it? How would you take it? Would you marry that person or would you not marry that person? Or a brother, he asks brothers that are his elders and those that he trusts, or those who have experience with marriage and that are married. And you say, if a sister says such and such, would you marry her? Would you take her into consideration? Would you consider her for marriage? And don't just ask one person, ask several to get a better idea on whether or not this is someone that is suitable for you. And while you are doing that, know that most people that you ask will base their answers on their own experiences. So if, for example, there is a brother who went through a negative experience and you ask him, he may have a negative response. Realize that does not meaning when you take that answer, don't just accept it. Know that there's a possibility that the brother is being biased because of his own personal experience. And so take it with a grain of salt. Likewise, a sister may have gone through a negative experience. And so when you ask her about marriage, or when you ask her about a specific scenario, a specific situation, she'll tell you, no way, sister, do not get married to this brother. Don't get married to this brother. Or may even tell you not to get married at all because of their negative experiences that they went through. And so you should take into consideration and see how even they answer these questions. If you see that there's a lot of emotion and a lot of passion in their answer, you should know that they're answering from an emotional standpoint. That the answer is not actually based on what may be good for you or may be bad for you, but rather they're speaking from a traumatic experience, from a traumatic point of view. So that answer may not actually benefit you. That answer may not actually benefit you. And that is why you should ask several people and not just one or two, so you can get a better answer and better advice, more accurate advice. Likewise, those you ask, which is still under the same point, those you ask, even if they don't speak from a traumatic experience, they may speak from the angle of their own preferences, their own personal preferences. So for example, if someone is an introvert, they're more on the quiet side, and you ask, this brother, for example, he's very talkative, should I marry him? I've heard that he's very talkative. That sister will say, no, sister, do not, don't marry him. That's because she herself does not like that. So she's only answering from the angle of what she prefers. So you ask people for their advice to get a general idea of what is good and bad. However, it still goes back to your preference. It still goes back to what you yourself like and what you yourself dislike. The fourth point that one must consider when asking a potential spouse about marriage or questions pertaining to marriage is that you should know that most people are putting on an impression. When someone knows, and that's natural, we shouldn't be naive to think otherwise, that if a brother is seeking a sister in marriage, he's going to present himself in a certain way. If a sister is interested in a brother and she wants to marry him, she's going to present herself in a certain way. No one is going to sit there just bashing themselves the entire time. or only mentioning all the negative aspects about them. People are going to be putting on a show because they want to get married. That's the reality. That's the reality. That people will present themselves in the best light, and they will tell you what you want to hear. They will tell you what you want to hear. And so you have to go into situations with that mentality. Yes, you ask all the questions that you want, but you also have to know and have in the back of your mind that what you are hearing now and what you are seeing now may not be the exact same thing once you marry this person and once you live with this person. And that is why you see many people after marriage saying, SubhanAllah, this is not who I met when I was trying to get married. When I had a sit down, what this brother told me, SubhanAllah, none of it is happening now in my marriage. And we even had a question like that yesterday. A similar question to that. And so going into this situation, then know that people will tell you what you want to hear. So how do you avoid that? How do you avoid being deceived in these sittings or in this process? Number one is make sure that it is face to face. If you're a brother, go to the sister's house. If you are a sister, have your father invite the brother to your house and let him ask his questions and you ask your questions and each of you give your answers face to face. How does that help? How does that help in getting more accurate answers? The way it helps is that if you were to do it, for example, by email or through another party, another couple, for example, that person has time to craft their answer. If you send an email with 20 questions and the sister or the brother has an entire week to come up with the best answer possible, well, of course, it's going to be like you're reading a novel. SubhanAllah, this is an amazing person. These people exist on earth, you're going to think. This person fell from the sky, he must be an angel. Right? So the person has time to think of their answer and present it to you in the best way possible. You might be thinking, sister, can we get married right now? After you read those answers. But if you ask face to face, that person, you keep them honest. They have no time to prepare anything. They have no time to prepare an answer. You can also focus on body language. You can focus on if the person has to think of the answer. You can tell between someone who, when you ask them a question and they answer right away, easily without thinking, or when they're sitting there pausing and thinking and trying to think of the best way to put the answer. So that will help you in determining how honest this person is about themselves. Another thing also is that instead of mentioning everything that you want, because when you mention everything that you want, all the person has to do is tell you that's exactly who they are. You say, I want a brother who's like this and like this and like this. You say, oh sister, that's me, I'm here, I'm right here. Right? That person will answer exactly based on what you want. And likewise a brother, I want a sister who looks like this, and I want a sister who speaks like this, and I want a sister who does this and does that, knows how to cook, knows how to clean, knows how to, all of these things. And say, yep, brother, that's me. When is the wedding date? All right. But if you ask face to face, they don't have time, number one, to prepare. And secondly, they will not be able to, because you did not give them the information ahead of time, they won't be able to just tell you what you want to hear. They won't be able to just tell you what you want to hear. So that's how you keep it honest. Of course, you still can't avoid people lying. People lie, people deceive. That's the reality. Finding people who fear Allah and that are honest are not many. And so, however, this is a way to minimize. This is a way to minimize being deceived and being told, a fairy tale and being sold a fairy tale instead of the actual truth. And I advise those who do this, those who, trick and play games in the process of marriage, that there is no point of doing so. Because when you do that, the marriages are short-lasted. They usually end up in divorce. When you sell yourself as something that you are not, whether it's a brother or a sister, that does not benefit you in the least. That does not benefit you in the least, because in most cases, if you are not actually like that, then that will end up in divorce. That will end up in divorce. And in the end, after asking questions and taking in these points, taking into consideration these points that we mentioned before even the process of asking questions and getting to know the person, then you always pray istikhara afterwards. You always pray istikhara. Salatul istikhara, as everyone knows, is 2 rak'ahs, and then there is a specific dua that is made. A misconception that exists is that many of the Muslims believe that Salatul Istikhara comes to you in some sort of dream or some sort of feeling. Alright, some people think that, okay, you've now looked into the person that you want to marry, and now you pray Istikhara, and then the sister says, brother, I prayed Istikhara, I dreamt that we were getting married and we were going into Jannah together and all of these things. People think it comes to them in the form of a dream. And there's no basis for that. There is no basis whatsoever that you're going to get some sort of feeling, or that you're going to, gravitate towards that person more, and they're going to gravitate toward. All of that has no basis. The purpose of istikhara is that in the dua that you see, in general, to summarize it, that you are asking Allah that if this is good for you, that He make it easy for you, and that if it's not good for your deen and your dunya, then He distance it from you. That Allah distance this affair from you. And you mention the specific affair. What does that do? Once you make that dua, if this person is khair for you, then Allah will facilitate that marriage for you. Allah will make it easy. The parents will be in agreement, you and the brother. For example, if it's a sister, or if it's a brother, you and the sister, you'll be in agreement that things will be made easy. Things that would normally be obstacles, Allah removes all of those obstacles and the like. Allah will make that path to marriage easy for you. That is what happens. And if it is something that is negative for you, then Allah will make it difficult. There will be obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. There will be no way for you to get married. And that does not mean that any hardship then that you find in the process, that is Allah now not making it easy for you. That's not what that means. What it means is, yes, you still strive and you attempt and you try your best to get married. However, you put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another thing with regards to istikhara that many don't know, that is a sunnah that is often not practiced, is that when praying istikhara, it is combined with asking advice from those that you are and that you find trustworthy, that you know. It's combined. That you pray istikhara and put your trust in Allah, but also you ask those who you trust. That is part of the istikhara. You make shura, that you consult those who you trust that can give you proper advice. Moving on now from the things to consider and the things to take into consideration before even beginning the process of asking questions and getting to know the person, we're moving on to now some of the things that we should look into and that are important to know before marriage. And when selecting a spouse, that these things are crucial and play a huge role in marriage, and one must know about these things from the other person. They must know what their views are and how they are when it comes to these things. So we're going to mention a select few, some of the things that I deem to be from the most important things that are crucial in marriage. And after dealing with many people in their marriages and some of the issues that come up in marriage, you find that they go back a lot of the time to these issues. And so, which only means that many people are neglecting this. Many people are neglecting finding out about these things before marriage. And what happens? They marry this person based on emotion, based on feelings or attraction, physical attraction, and they do not look at these things, and then later on it becomes the cause of their divorce. Later on it becomes the cause of their divorce. And so what is important in marriage, although we mentioned that deen, yes, is important, and someone having a good character is important, compatibility. The more compatible you are with the person that you marry, in most cases, the more that marriage lasts. Meaning the more you have in common with that person, the more alike you are in terms of personality, the more alike you are in terms of the things that you like and in terms of the things you dislike. The more alike you are in the things that you deem to be fun and from halal fun and these types of things, the more you will get along. The more your relationship will be good. So it is not only deen that we look at. Deen is important from one aspect. From the aspect that if any differing ever happens, if any issues ever happen, the both of you return to Allah and His Messenger. The both of you, your reference point is the deen. And so you are both in agreement that you go back to the deen to solve your issues and to navigate through your marriage. So that is why the deen is important. However, the relationship, the day-to-day life of living with this person and enjoying their company and the like, that goes back to compatibility. That goes back to how compatible you are and how much you find out about this person to see how similar they are to you. To see how similar they are to you. So the first point pertaining to what you should look at regarding the person and what you should ask is questions about the person's personality. Questions about the person's personality, meaning things that will tell you about this person, how they are and how they think and the like. So what that helps with is that it will show you if you will get along with this person. It will show you if you will get along with this person, even if they are not religious. Let's say for argument's sake, I'm not saying to marry someone who's not religious, but if you look at kuffar, for example, non-Muslims, some who don't worship anything, some who don't believe in anything, or those who worship other than Allah, meaning they have no deen, they have no morals. However, you see them not divorcing, you see them sticking together, and their marriages are successful. Why is that? Why is that? That is because their marriages are based on the compatibility. They married someone who is like them. That they have many things in common, so the thing that connects them are these things. The things that keeps their relationship alive are these things. But if you find that you are completely opposite to someone, that you guys don't agree on anything, that you don't like anything at all that is similar, there's nothing that you both like. Everything that you like, she dislikes. Everything that she likes, you dislike. That relationship usually will not last. That relationship usually will not last, even if the two people are religious. Even if the two people are religious. And so before you even find out about the other person and their personality, before you even ask questions about their personality or things that will allow you to know about this person's personality, you have to know your own personality. You have to know your own personality. What do people say about you? The people that are closest to you, your siblings, your parents, your friends, your closest friends. What is it that they all say common about you? How do they find you? They find you to be someone who's polite, someone who has a sense of humor, someone who's mean, someone who's rude. What do they say? Well, how do they find you? If you find commonalities between how everyone sees you, then you know that this is your personality. And so when you know yourself and you know how you are and how you think, then you know what to seek. Then you know what to seek. But if you don't even know about yourself and you don't even think about that is not on your mind when you are seeking a spouse, then you'll make that mistake. You won't look to see or you won't look to marry someone who is similar to you. Someone who is similar to you. Some of the things that you should ask about are the things that make them happy. You ask, if you're a brother, you ask a sister straight up, what are some things that make you happy? No matter what it is, whether it's gifts, whether it's traveling, whether it's, you find out about that person. What that will tell you is what they value. What that will tell you is what they value. If they find, or if you find that money is what makes a sister happy, then you know that that is what she values, right? If you know, if a sister asks a brother that about anything, and he says, a nice home-cooked meal is what makes me happy, right? Gourmet food every day, morning, lunch, and dinner. That's what makes me happy. Then the sister knows that that's what he values. That is what is important to him. And so asking about these things, no matter what they are, whether they are physical, whether they are gestures, whether they are words that are said, any form of things that make people happy, that will tell you about this person, and that will tell you whether or not you are even suitable for them. It will tell you whether the two of you will get along. It will tell you whether the two of you will get along. Ask also about experiences that they've had in their lives. Ask about experiences that they've had in their lives. What are some of the best things that you've experienced in your life from childhood up until this date? What are some of the negative things, some negative experiences that you've had, like traumatic experiences and the like? That will tell you whether or not you yourself are able to be the best husband. If you're a brother, for example, and you are marrying a sister and she tells you that I've gone through such and such and such and such in my life, that I've had a difficult life and the like, and then you yourself now see from yourself, based on what you know about yourself, whether or not you would be able to be a good husband to this sister. You will know. Likewise, a sister, she asks about a brother, about his experiences, then she'll know whether or not she, based on who she is and how she is and her own experiences, whether or not she will be able to be a good wife for that brother. And so once you get to know these things, then you'll have a informed decision. You'll make an informed decision rather than just guess and say, well, this brother or this sister seems decent, so let me just get married, and then we'll just deal with whatever happens in the marriage. That is incorrect, because that means you are going to be jumping into the deep end and you don't know how to swim. You're jumping into the deep end and you don't know how to swim. Likewise, what happens when you ask about these life experiences is you'll find out whether or not you yourself had similar experiences. So if you can relate to some of the experiences, whether good or bad experiences, then that will be a way for the two of you to bond and to relate to one another. And so when you have conversations with your wife, at home, just the two of you, when you're having conversations, you will be able to have conversations where the two of you understand one another. But if you are two people who don't have similar experiences, and one of you wants to have a conversation with the other about these things, and you find that the person cannot relate whatsoever, the person cannot engage in that conversation, they have no idea what you're even talking about, right? The best case scenario is that they sit there and they listen to you, but they can't offer anything back. They can't offer anything back. And so knowing if you have similar experiences, or at least can understand and can relate, that will help in the marriage. That will help in the marriage. You also ask each other about what you do for fun. What is it that you do for fun on your free time? A sister may ask a brother, and a brother may ask a sister. What that will reveal is if some of these things, number one, are things that you actually deem appropriate or not. For example, a brother may ask a sister, what is it that you do for fun? And she says, well, I attend, lectures, and I attend durus at the masjid and things like that. And then she says, and then sometimes my friends, me and my friends go out to eat, and we come home 2 a.m. And for the brother right there, X, right? The brother now knows that that is something that he cannot tolerate. He knows that that is something that he cannot tolerate. Likewise, a sister may ask a brother, me and my friends, we usually go to these places, and she knows that these types of places are where free mixing occurs, or where music is being played and things like that. Haram is happening in these places. And so she now knows that she does not want to be married to a brother who would go to places like this. And so she'll know now, and she'll have a way to, you'll be able to base your decision on whether or not you want to marry this person based on these things. You also ask about their friends. You ask about the people that they accompany. Because usually, just as the Prophet ﷺ said, الرجل على دين خليله, that man is upon the religion of his companion, meaning upon the way, that you do not befriend someone except that you have something in common with them. No one befriends someone that they have absolutely nothing in common, or else what brought the two of you together in the first place? Right? So the people that a brother keeps as his company, or the people that a sister keeps in her company, will usually reflect who she is and what she is and what she likes. Likewise, the brother, who he is and what he likes. And so you ask about them because there is something that unites them and brings them together. So this will tell you more often than not what type of person it is. Yes, it is possible that you may not be exactly the same as some other friends that you keep. Meaning you may be friends with some people and that you don't have the same views, or you don't like the same things. That's possible. But in general, for the most part, you will have some similarities and some things in common. However, if you are friends with people who, for example, they're known to partake in things that are sinful, for example, but you yourself don't, but you think you actually consider them your friends, what that would tell the other person who's looking into you for marriage is that you choose these types of people as your friends. You choose these types of people as your friends. Even if you claim that you are not like them, you still befriend them and mix with them. And so then a brother or a sister who is looking into someone for marriage, if they find out that these are the people that a person befriends, then you should not want to marry a person like that, or be married to a person like that who you know mixes with people who indulge and engage in evil. Because even if they don't do it now, that means there is a possibility that they'll fall into it, as long as they are befriending these types of people. The reason why this is important to ask is because later on you will marry this person and you will have children. And this person will now be the example for your children. If you have sons, for example, and the brother that you married is someone who indulges in haram or is mixing, even if he claims to be a practicing brother, but he goes to places that are not permissible, or he befriends people that he should not be befriending, your children will now be exposed to that. He will take your son with him sometimes, and he'll be in the presence of these type of people. So your children will be exposed to this, which will affect their upbringing. If a brother is looking into a sister, she's not wearing hijab, or she does whatever the case is, or not wearing proper hijab, you will have daughters. Your daughters will now see her as their example. They will want to emulate their mother. And so you have to take that into consideration before you marry. You have to take that into consideration before you marry. You have to think about the children that you will have, and if this person is someone who is good to raise your children. Will the two of you be raising your children and be on the same page when it comes to that? The next question that is still connected also to finding out about a person's personality is how do they behave when they're upset. Does she break dishes? Does she burn the house down? Or is she able to have a conversation with you and discuss what it is that is bothering her? Does the brother drive the car into the house when he gets angry? Take the kids and throw them on the wall? What is it? How does he behave when he's angry? All right? You have to find out this, because this will tell you what you're able to handle or not. If the person starts to become vulgar and swear and these types of things, and that's what they resort to when they're angry, then that will also tell you that this is someone you should stay away from. If that's not the case, but rather they are someone who, for example, when they're upset, they become quiet and reserved and they stay away from everyone. And they lock themselves in their room and they don't talk to anyone. You'll know that you're not also able to deal with that. Whether you are able to deal with it or not, you'll know from how they tell you they behave when they're upset. A follow-up question afterwards is that if they tell you now, this is how I behave when I'm upset, then a follow-up question to that would be, then how do you like to be comforted when you are upset? What gets you out of being upset? What is it that people do normally to get you to become happy again and to get over whatever it is that you are dealing with that is upsetting you? All right? And so you then will know, number one, whether or not you're capable of doing it. Number two, if you didn't know it about yourself, if you were able to do this or not, then this could be either something you can work on and become that you think about and contemplate, and this, you can bring it out of you. It could just be that you'd never had that opportunity to do that for someone. So you'll learn, you'll reflect on yourself. Am I able to do that? Am I able to do that every single time? And the like. So you'll be able to make an informed decision when it comes to that. However, if it is too much for you and you're not able to deal with someone who resorts to that, then you know that this is not the person for you. Then you know that this is not the person for you. You can also ask the person about their habits that they have, things that are important to them, things that are not important to them, but things that they do, and that is a habit that they do. Not necessarily haram or halal or the like, but things that they do that are particular to them. For example, from things that are good is in terms of people that are cleanly or extra cleanly, that they can't even see a dust particle without cleaning it. All right? That they're extremely clean. So if someone is like that, and you're someone who is messy, and every time you eat, especially the brothers, you leave whatever you ate exactly where it was. Right? Everyone's smiling. Everyone's guilty. That means you eat your food, whatever you've made, and you leave it exactly where you ate it, expecting someone else to take it afterwards. Or you go to the kitchen and make yourself a meal, and everything that you used, you leave it on the counter as if someone else is supposed to clean up after you. And so if a sister is not used to that type of thing, then that can become frustrating in a marriage. And I've seen situations, divorces have happened from this. Divorces have occurred from this. And so, number one, brothers should clean up after themselves. And sisters should clean up after themselves. Even now, you don't have to wait for marriage for that. That is just a standard thing. Don't expect your mother to clean up after you or your sister to clean up after you. You're the one who ate it. You get up and you clean up yourself and wash your own dishes. And don't think that that is a job for women. That's your own job. Nobody else ate from that plate. Nobody else brought all of these things out and left it all over the counter. You did. And so you shouldn't expect to be cleaned up after. And likewise, you shouldn't expect it in marriage. However, a wife will normally do that for her husband. If a wife loves her husband, she'll bring him his food, and after he's done eating, she'll take it and put it away and all of that. However, in terms of being messy, taking your clothes and throwing it all over the place, as soon as you want to change your clothes, you take off whatever you're wearing and you leave it in the hallway, not even in your bedroom. right? And you expect that your wife comes and cleans up after you all the time. That is not correct. That is not correct. And so these types of things should be discussed ahead of time. These type of things should be discussed ahead of time. Ask about specific personality traits that the person has. Are you a person who is like this? Are you a person who is like this and like that? Specific qualities and personality traits that people have. The ones that you should be asking about, number one, are the ones that are important to you. That you yourself want to marry someone who is like that. Someone who is kind, someone who is gentle, someone who is soft if you're a brother. And even if you are a sister, you want to marry someone who is kind, someone who is gentle, someone who knows how to handle situations. For a sister, for example, a quality is that she should seek in a brother is that he knows how to be a leader, and that he has any masculine traits. A brother likewise asking a sister about feminine traits, because that's what he should be seeking. And so what that will tell you then is if this person is, once again, good for you or not good for you. If after you've asked about these personality traits, you find that they are like that, and then you can also ask others about them. You can ask, if you're a brother, you ask, is this sister such like this and like this and like this? If majority of the people that you ask say, yes, I find her to be like this, then you have a good idea. And likewise, the brothers sisters will ask about the brother in a similar way, about these specific personality traits. And then also ask about the negative personality traits that you dislike. The negative personality traits that you dislike. Look at yourself and who you take as friends. Who are the people that are your friends? What are their personality traits like? What makes you hang out with them? What makes you keep them close? What is it that caused you to, let's say you were in school, what caused you to gravitate towards a certain group of people as opposed to another? Something made you become friends with certain people and not others. So those who you enjoy their company and you enjoy being around them, what are the traits that they have that you enjoy? And likewise, the people that you don't like being around and you don't befriend, what are the traits that they have that causes you not to mix with them? That is going to be the exact same thing in marriage. Those same traits, for example, if you're someone who likes to laugh and likes to joke, that means you would want someone who has a sense of humor. You don't want to be married to someone who every time you tease them gets angry and pours juice in your face, right? You don't want that. You don't want that. You want someone who you can joke with and tease, and she teases you and the like, and you guys have a comfortable relationship, if that's your personality. And then if you're someone who's more serious and doesn't joke as much, then you don't want someone who's joking 24/7 and playing pranks on you, right? Your wife playing pranks on you. You don't want that if you're someone who's more serious. So you'll find out about that if you ask about these things. The second category of the types of questions that you ask after personality is about mentality, about how someone thinks, You can discuss current events in the world, anything, any general topic, anything that people are passionate about, or people talk about and people discuss, and you find out if that person is either pessimistic or optimistic. You find out about that person. Do they view the world and do they view things from a negative light all the time, and that everything that happens they only see the negative side from it? Or do they always have an optimistic view? Any bad thing that happens, inshallah khair, inshallah khair. They're more positive. Because if the person is always negative, you don't want to be around someone who is negative and that only sees things in a negative way. That if, for example, you're married to them and something happens from the qadr of Allah, something happens, they're just complaining non-stop. You did this and you did that, and why didn't you do this and why didn't you do that? Instead of saying, subhanallah, this is from the qadr of Allah, inshallah khair, Allah will give us better. See, those are two different types of people. Those are two different types of people. And as a man, you do not want the first one, right? The first one, that even after you're dealing with some sort of negativity, something negative that has happened in your life, or a calamity, or some sort of hardship and difficulty you're going through, and then all you hear is, in your ear, yap, 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 yap. Right? No one wants to deal with that. No man wants to deal with that. So you ask, when you find out, you bring up situations, you bring up events, you bring up anything, a story, something you heard a brother go through or a sister go through, whatever, and the comments that the person makes, whether you're a brother or whether you're a sister, the comments that the person makes will tell you whether they are a positive person or whether they are a negative and pessimistic person. And also, in terms of being pessimistic and optimistic, when something difficult happens or a hardship happens, you can ask that person. If, for example, you are a brother, if, la qadar Allah, that you lose your job, for example, you ask a sister that you're interested in, what would you do in that scenario? What would you do in that scenario? Or anything, any type of negative event you ask about. If she focuses on solutions rather than blame, then you know that this person is an optimistic person. If she is helping you in ways to find another job, if she says, let me speak to so-and-so, my uncle or my father or my brother, and see if he can help you, she's trying to find solutions. That is more of an optimistic person. But if none of that happens and it's just, what are you doing? Why aren't you getting a job? Go get a job. 7 a.m. she's waking you up. Go, go, go. What are you doing? What are you doing? We need money. There's bills. If all she's focusing on is blame, then also as a man you will not be happy. And so that is something that you have to also look into before marriage. The next category of questions that you ask about, the third, is questions that will tell you about their family dynamic and what kind of household this person comes from. So you ask them first and foremost about their relationship with their parents. You ask them about their relationship with their parents. Are they on good terms with their parents? And if they are not, is it something due to themselves? And are they to blame for it? Or is the parent to blame for it? So if the parent is to blame for the parent abandoned them, then they're not really responsible. It's not really in their hands. It's not really in their hands. However, if they have a good relationship with their parents, that they obey them and they listen to them and they serve their parents, then this is a good sign of either the brother or the sister. Likewise, find out the relationship with their parents, whether it exists or does not exist, how that has affected their mentality and their emotions. If, for example, a parent abandoned a child, has that affected them emotionally? Has that affected them in terms of their mental health? Has that affected them in terms of their personality? They now lack trust, or they have attachment issues and the like. There's certain things about their personality that has developed because of the family dynamic. You discuss that with them and you find that out about them. Likewise, you ask them about their siblings and aunts and even the distant family, those that are around them. Why? Because when you find out about them, you know that your children, these will be their uncles and their aunts. These will be their uncles and their aunts. So do you want your children to grow up and have these people as their uncles and their aunts? That at times you will leave them at their houses. Do you trust them with your children in terms of their deen? Meaning things that in your household you do not allow. You do not allow music, you do not allow movies, you do not allow your children to do any type of haram. And then you take them to your wife's sister's house, for example, and your son comes back singing Christmas songs. Right? This is the reality. Is this what you want? That's why you have to find out about the family. That is why you have to find out about the family ahead of time. That is why you have to find out about the family ahead of time. Likewise, if you do find that one or two people, for example, are not practicing and are far from the deen, that are from either the brother's side or from the sister's side, it does not mean that now that means this sister or this brother should not be married, because they have someone in their family that may have and strayed from the straight path, for example. However, what is crucial to ask about is that if that sister, for example, if it's from the sister's side, that she has people that are in her family that are far from the deen, you ask as a brother, or if it's from the brother's side, the sister should ask the brother that I do not want my children to mix with these individuals. I don't have a problem, because they will be family. You give them salam, you can invite them to our house and host them and all of these types of things. However, leaving my children in their presence, or allowing them to sleep over at their houses, for example, and the like, that is something that I will not accept. That is something that I will not accept. Are you on the same page? Or will you fight me and say, these are their aunts, this is their uncle. How can you do that? You're breaking the ties of kingship and the like. Is that what the argument will be? Or will you be on the same page for the sake of our children? For the sake of our children, and because we are the ones that are going to be asked about these children. Wherever we take them, whoever's company we leave them in, whatever happens to them in the care of others, we will be responsible, because we knew what they were and we knew what they were upon. So if we are nonchalant and lenient just because it's family, just because it's their aunts or their uncles, that we leave them there, or even their grandparents, whoever it is, that we know that evil happens in those households, and we still take our children there because we fear being blamed, we fear being spoken ill of, or that our parents or our siblings will become mad at us. So we give precedence to that over protecting our children and their akhirah. So that discussion has to happen ahead of time. That if it exists that either from the brother's side or from the sister's side, there are people that could potentially harm the children in terms of their deen and introducing things to them that you do not want your children to engage in, the brother and sister must be on the same page. The two that are trying to get married, they have to be on the same page when it comes to that. And if you find, whoever it is, whether it's the brother or the sister, if you find that the other person is not budging, or that they wish to, regardless of the rules that you lay down or whatever you've mentioned before marriage, that they do want their children, to stay over and mix with other children, or sorry, the in-laws, then you can make a decision based on that. Then you can make a decision based on that. That if the sister or the brother is not willing to be on the same page as you, to not, put your children in danger in that way, that they will actually take your children there and leave them there, then do not marry a person like that. Do not marry a person like that. Likewise, if the person, whether it's the brother or whether it's the sister, if they come from a family where their parents are divorced, so they either grew up without a parent in their life, or they saw certain things and experienced certain things due to the divorce that occurred between their parents, ask them how that has affected them emotionally and mentally. And then ask them in relation to marriage, how they view marriage now, and how they view, trusting a man. For example, if it's a sister and she went through a experience where her father mistreated her mother and then divorced her and abandoned them. Now, her as a grown woman, how does she feel now towards men? How does she feel towards marriage? Does she believe that all men are bad? Right? And likewise, a brother, similarly, if he did not have his father in his life and the like, did that affect him in a way where he now does not know how to be a man or how to be a good husband. That he may have seen his father treating his mother in a negative way, and then he may have learned those habits. So a sister should ask him about how does he believe a woman should be treated in marriage. Ask him about specific scenarios. What do you think about men who hit their wives? What do you think about men who hit their children? What do you think about men who do such and such and such and such? And see what his views are on these things, so that you can build a trust before marriage. For the sisters, when they are asking a brother, when it comes to the family dynamic, ask a brother about his relationship with his sisters. If he has blood sisters, siblings, ask him about his relationship with his sisters. And if you have the ability to ask his actual sisters about their relationship with their brother. Is he someone who cared for them? Is he someone who protected them throughout their childhood and their lives? Is he someone that they can go to that they're comfortable with? Or is he distant from them and he barely has any relationship with them? Do they see from him that he's someone who understands, for example, women, and he knows that the way he treats them and the way he deals with them is not the same as how he deals with his brothers, for example, right? Find out, because that will allow you to know whether or not this brother is prepared to deal with a woman and be in a relationship with a woman. And then likewise for the brothers, you ask the sister about her relationship with her brothers, and you ask her brothers about their relationship with their sister. You ask them, is she someone who has, for example, submissive traits? Did she obey her father, for example? Does she listen to her father? Does she help around the house? Do they see from her traits that would be good in a wife or as a mother? Do they see that from her? Or do they see otherwise? Right? Does she know, for example, and she has that mentality that she knows that men and how they are treated and how they are and how they think is different than how women think? You discuss that with her brothers. The fourth aspect, as it pertains to selecting a suitable spouse and the questions you should ask, is questions about their philosophy in raising children, how they wish to raise children. You ask a sister, what is her role in raising children? Does she believe that as soon as that baby is born, that's it? That the man is responsible for that child? Meaning in everything? Changing his diaper and feeding him and everything, that the father is supposed to do that? That they're equal in that? What does she believe her role is in terms of raising the children? And what does she believe your role is also in raising the children? Because you as a man likewise have a role. That you are not solely the provider, that you just bring in money and you buy them food and clothes, and that is your only relationship with your children. You don't even know what age they are and what grade they're in school or nothing like that. Right? No knowledge of your children other than providing for them. That is not what a father is. That is not what a father is. Does a sister or a brother believe in sending your children to daycare, for example? Or having a maid pretty much do everything for the children? Does she or he believe in allowing children to watch television all the time? Or buy them iPads and cell phone, smartphones now? You see that, subhanAllah, illa man rahimallah, you find that children are being raised by gadgets today. And you find, subhanAllah, children from the age of 2, as young as 2 years old, that if they're eating food, they cannot eat food unless you put something in front of them. That they have to have your cell phone watching YouTube or an iPad, and if you do not, subhanAllah, it's World War III. If you don't give it to them, that child is throwing that food off the table. It's gone. Alright? SubhanAllah, it's unbelievable the attachment that they have. It's an addiction. An addiction that started at 2 years old. Imagine when they become 15 and 16 and 20 years old. That this is something that is very sad and very unfortunate. That children have these types of things, and subhanAllah, a child who's 2 years old, are you telling me that that child learned about these things by themselves? Or did the parent put it in their hands and teach them this? And then now when they taught them this and they become addicted to it, they can't even get their phone away from that child to use their own phone. That's how addicted the child becomes to the phone. So this has to be discussed. That a parent, in order to distract their child, they just give them anything, iPad or a smartphone to distract them while they do whatever they want. Is that correct parenting? Is that how you want to raise children? Is that what you want your children to grow up upon? That is a discussion that a sister should have with a brother, and a brother should have with a sister. The harm in that is that when you expose children to these things, these cartoons and these shows, is that they will mimic the behavior that they see here. They will mimic the behavior that they see, and then they will act it out in the household. They will act it out in the household. You ask, for example, if you're a man, you ask a sister about how she plans to dress her daughter. When she has daughters, does she plan to put on leggings for her, tights, and short dresses and short skirts, while she is completely in jilbab and niqab maybe even? Because we find that. We find sisters completely covered, and in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala legislated, yet for their daughters, they dress them half naked for the entire dunya to see. And they believe that they're still young. It's not a big deal, they're still young. That she's just 5, she's just 7, she's only 10, what's the problem? Right? And they take them to, for example, places like swimming pools, where all kinds of people are there, men and women. Men are there, boys are there, and the little girl is wearing a swimsuit, while her mother is in full jilbab. This is supposed to be someone who's practicing. The reality is, some sisters, although they're practicing within themselves, meaning they pray 5 times a day and things like that, but deep down, they wish they could dress this way. So they live the life that they would want to live through their daughters. That is the reality. They wish they could be living like this, but they know they can't. They know they can't just take off their hijab and wear a bikini outside. But because I missed out on that, let me not allow my daughter to miss out on that. That's the mentality. Or let my daughter not be singled out. All the other little girls are wearing bathing suits and are swimming in public pools. So let my daughter not be heartbroken, and let her also participate in that. And then you want that girl to grow up to wear hijab. How will that ever happen when her own mother, who should be her example and should be the one who teaches her, chastity and covering herself and modesty, is allowing her to do this? As soon as that child reaches the age of to be able to distinguish between things, you will not be able to change that child's mind. And that child will see it as a contradiction. You allowed me to do this for this long, and how are you now forbidding me for it? Now we see how many of our sisters, when they've now reached an older age, that our parents are struggling and us as siblings are struggling to teach them and to tell them to wear hijab, but there's no hope. You can't convince them to do so because the tarbiyah from the beginning was incorrect. No one made them wear hijab when they were young, or caused them to love the hijab and teach them about the benefit of the hijab. And so now teaching them at an older age has become extremely difficult. And so a brother should ask, does a sister want his daughter, or her, would she want her daughter to be dressed in this way and to engage in some of these types of things? And likewise, a sister should ask her brother, would he do that to his daughter? Would he allow, at what age, for example, does he want his daughter to start wearing hijab? Is he going to say 15? Is he going to say when she reaches the age of puberty? Because that is what most people believe. Some people have the misconception that a daughter should only be made to wear hijab when it becomes wajib upon her. Meaning when she reaches the age of puberty, 12, 13, 14, around that age. Which is incorrect, because it starts from young. Whatever you teach that child to love, that little girl to love from young, that is what she will love for the rest of her life, inshallah. Inshallah. But if you did not teach her that or cultivate her upon that for all of these years, and you wait until she's 12, 13, 14, that is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. Likewise, ask about how boys should be raised. A sister should ask the brother, how does he plan to raise his sons? Does he plan to raise them by just allowing them to sit there and his sisters are the ones doing everything? Meaning he raises them to kick his feet up from a very young age, expecting to be taken care of and catered to, and that the chores in the house are only done by his sisters and no one else does anything. There's no cleaning. Basically, he grows up to be completely useless whatsoever. He doesn't even know how to use a microwave. All right? That's the proper way to raise sons. We find many mothers doing that with their sons. If he even gets up to try to get food or make himself some food, oh, what's going on? Go sit down, sit down. And she goes screams for his, Asha, what are you doing? How's your brother in the kitchen making food? Allahu musta'an. What, is it a crime that he's making food? Why is it like that? That is not correct tarbiyah whatsoever. That is not correct tarbiyah. Even if it exists in our culture, that is not correct. That is not correct. The son should be trained from a young age to be able to clean his house, to be able to fix things, to be able to do things around the house so that he can help his wife later on. In my household, I only remember my father cleaning, cooking, everything. My father is a better cook than my mother. That's all I've ever seen. So it's not strange to me then to cook. It's not. I'm used to it. I saw in my household my father cooking. So I didn't grow up to think that cooking is only something women do. That is only specific to women. So this tarbiyah that we have, even if it's in our culture, it has to be changed. That yes, the daughters also should be taught how to be a mother and how to be nurturing and how to cook and how to clean and all of that, because she will take care of her household. She should be raised upon that. But that does not mean that the sons should completely be neglected in that aspect and that he's completely useless and does not know how to do anything. Likewise, when it comes to raising children, there are aspects in terms of cultivating children and that is connected to the parents themselves and what they show their children, because the children will be examples, will see the parents as examples. Whatever they see them doing, that is what they're going to mimic. And so now when you are dealing with marital issues between you and your spouse, you should never do it in front of children. You should never show it to the children. If there's something that needs to be discussed, you shouldn't be yelling and raising your voices in front of children. That should never be shown to children. You leave the children, for example, in their bedrooms or in the living room, and you and your husband, you go privately and discuss whatever you need to discuss privately. So how you deal with those issues has to be discussed also before marriage. That a brother or a sister should tell their husband, this is how I want to solve our issues as a couple. Never to do it in front of the children. Are you in agreement with that or not? And you make a decision based on that. Likewise, something that is very crucial to know and to discuss before marriage, especially from the side of the father, from the husband, is that he should discuss with his wife when she believes boys should no longer be mixing with girls or with women. When a child is young, when he's a toddler, for example, 2, 3, 4 years old, then they don't know anything at this point. But at what age now should these boys no longer mix? For example, if the wife has a gathering where she invites her sisters, her friends to her house, and the father leaves the house, for example. At what age now should, because sometimes what happens is some of the sisters take their hijab off and they don't dress inside the house the way they would outside, or if it's a wedding, or if it's some sort of, celebratory type of event. They're not wearing jilbabs and niqabs. There's makeup and there's dresses and different things that they're wearing when it's in the privacy of a home. So that boy now, if he's 10 years old, is that appropriate for him to be around women like that? Some sisters believe he's still young. It's perfectly fine. And they become a trial for their sons, exposing him to the awrah of women and things like that. And later on you find that child a couple of years later looking on websites and things like that, and you have no idea where it came from. And you are the one who caused it. You are the one who increased his shahwa from that age, or exposed him to seeing women in that way. Where in reality you should have protected him from it. And so that discussion also has to happen between the two potentials that wish to marry. That by the age where a child is already, can distinguish and knows the awrah of a woman, meaning that if a child were to see a naked woman, he knows that this is something he shouldn't look at. He will look away right away. If he sees, even if it's not a woman, if he were to see nudity, that child looks away. That means that child is at the age where he should not be mixing with women anymore. That boy should not be mixing with women. And that girl should not be mixing with men or with other boys. That if families get together, the boys and the girls should be separated. They should be separated. Many will see that as extreme. They see that as extreme, but then when you later on try to implement that when they get older, then you'll see the harms, that you will not be able to do so. You will not be able to do so. And so if a brother, for example, invites his friends, men, to the house, he shouldn't have his 12-year-old daughter coming into the room, sitting on this one's lap and that one's lap, and this one's hugging her, and that's completely inappropriate. You shouldn't get your daughters you shouldn't get them used to mixing with men and being okay in the presence of men. You should allow her to keep her modesty and her shyness. Because girls in general, from the fitrah is that she's shy. And you are forcing that shyness away out of her by causing her to mix with men and sitting with you while men are around. And likewise the same with mothers. Bringing your son to be hugged by women and sitting in the middle of them and seeing them, beautifying themselves and the like. You should not do that. You should not do that. The next category, the fifth category, I believe, regarding questions that will that you should ask when selecting a suitable spouse, is regarding deen. The questions that will reveal to you what this person believes, or whether they are religious or not, or whether they are whether they are upon the correct methodology or not. And when it comes to the matter of deen, what many people have a misconception on is that, mashallah, this brother or this sister is a hafidh al-Quran. That is the highest point or the highest level of Shaykh al-Imam, right? There's nothing higher than that. That if he's a hafidh al-Quran, that means this is going to be the best marriage ever, right? In Toronto, we have some huffaz, they're the ones killing each other in the streets. What did the Quran, memorizing the Quran, do for them? Without understanding its meaning and implementing its meaning. That is the actual goal of memorizing the Quran. Not just memorizing it to be called a hafidh. Not just memorizing it to be called a hafidh. And this point here now is crucial because in the past I would see the process of exchanging profiles, and this sister gives a profile and this brother gives a profile, and they read what the other person says about themselves, so that they see if they're compatible for marriage or suitable for marriage. And you would find many times people would ask the question, how much Quran have you memorized? That was a common question that people ask. How much Quran have you memorized? That is because the mentality was that means this person is righteous. That this is a Allah-fearing individual. that if they memorize the Quran, then that means they're pious and they're righteous, etc. طيب, ask those same people 10 years into the marriage how much that memorization of the Quran ever came up in their marriage. Did that brother teach the sister the Quran? Did she become a hafidah through him? No. Did any aspect of their marriage, their day-to-day life, have anything to do with how much Quran either one of them memorized? No. So these things, Allahul Musta'an, people used to get married based on them, and then they realized very quickly into their marriages that it actually meant nothing. It actually meant nothing in comparison to what the person actually believes in the deen, and what they practice, and what they study. That is, this person constantly attending durus, or listening to lectures online, or taking courses online, building their knowledge of the deen, and learning the correct aqidah methodology. Or did they just simply memorize the Quran? And today we have that phenomenon. And this is, subhanAllah, something the Salaf warned against in the past. That we will have in the ends of time, qurra. Those who will sit in front of the people giving lectures and giving verdicts, misguiding the people because they're reciters. Look today, subhanAllah, how many people know reciters of the Quran? Nobody knows the scholars of the Ummah. No one knows the scholars. A few weeks ago, Sheikh Ali Nasir al-Faqihi passed away. One of the greatest scholars of this era. Who knows about it? Who knows? No one even heard about it, let alone anything, or let alone feel anything about it. But any young kid today who's on YouTube, mashallah, with a khutra ironed, shimagh, and mashallah, very edited, nice 4K videos, memorized the Quran, and has a nice voice, the entire dunya knows. And people flock to their gatherings. Why? You see, what can he teach you in your deen? Absolutely nothing. And some of them now are giving durus and teaching and giving lectures and being invited from all over the world. Why? Because they know how to recite the Quran properly in a melodious way. So this is from the signs of the Day of Judgment. This is from the signs of the Day of Judgment. So everything has to be put in its proper context. That yes, memorizing the Book of Allah is something important and something that does have value. And from the angle, especially when it comes to marriage, that if you marry a sister or if you marry a brother who memorized the Quran, or memorized a good portion of the Quran, or at least knows how to recite the Quran properly, then they can teach your children. That would be the benefit of looking into someone who knows the Quran and the like. But if you think that someone who memorized the Quran is going to be a good husband because they memorized the Quran, then that is a misconception. Or that a sister is going to be a good sister, a good wife, because she memorized the Quran, then that is also likewise incorrect. So you ask them about their beliefs. You ask them about who they listen to. You ask them, for example, if they frequent a particular masjid in the city that they're in, what masjid do they go to? You find out about the things that they believe. Ask them specific questions about aqidah and see if they know. It could be one of three scenarios. Either they answer correctly and they have the correct aqidah, or they answer incorrectly and they have incorrect aqidah, meaning they're upon a misguided path, or that they simply don't know. And if they simply don't know, then that means there's an opportunity to teach. So that doesn't mean that you reject that person, but there's an opportunity to teach that person, whether it's the brother or the sister. Likewise, you can discuss with them and tell them that if you're not knowledgeable about the deen, then are you willing to at least make an effort in learning about your deen? After we get married, would you want to go to durus together? Would you want to listen? Would you take this course and learn from this person and the like? If they're open to it, then that is also a good sign. That is also a good sign. Another important point when it comes to asking people about marriage is, instead of asking about these generic questions like I mentioned now a little while ago, about how much Quran have you memorized, or what is your favorite color, or things like that some people think, And today, with billah, Allah musta'an, what is your sign, right? Are you a Pisces? Are you a Cancer? Are you a Taurus? And people actually believe this shirk is somehow going to benefit them in their relationships. It only shows how much we followed the kuffar in their ways. That we believe that the month we were born in or the day that we were born in somehow has some effect on qadr. This issue of horoscopes. That none of these things that we mentioned today in this lecture we look at. No, everything is known by the horoscope. The horoscope is going to tell us whether we are suitable for one another or not. And which signs are more suitable with other signs. And if you're from this sign, then no way, you can't, if you're a Taurus, stay away from Aquarius. If you're a Pisces, stay away from this one. A'udhu billah. We've gone that far. And I'm not even talking, people that are not practicing, expect anything from them. People who claim to be practicing are falling into this. I'm not sure whether they know or not, but this is founded on and based on complete shirk, complete disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so now what we do, instead of asking about just generic questions that will help us in determining whether or not someone is good for us, we should ask scenario questions. Questions about specific scenarios. If it's a sister, put a brother in a specific scenario and ask him about that scenario and ask him how he would behave or how he would act in that scenario. Don't just say, what do you like, what do you dislike, because that's as if the person is just reading off a script. That's very easy to get deceived that way. If all you do is resort to questions that will just tell you about the likes and the dislikes of a particular person or their personality traits, and that's all you ask. Rather ask, I'll give you an example that I've done in my own experience before. I asked previously, and I'll give a disclaimer, I'll leave it actually for the end instead of mentioning in the beginning. I asked the sister, if we are married and we live in a particular city and your mother is visiting us from another city, and I say she's not staying with us, she's staying in a hotel. I don't want her to stay in our house, but while she's here, I'll do everything for her. I'll pick her up in the morning, take her everywhere she needs to go, everything. However, she's not sleeping in our house. I'll put her in a 5-star hotel even, Shangri-La, it doesn't matter. Right? But the most important thing is she's not sleeping here. I asked her, what would you do in that scenario? I put her in a scenario. You see? I didn't ask her, what would you marry a brother who would do this or that? No, that's easy. That's just a yes or no question. I put her in this scenario to see how she would act in that situation. She said, oh, well, I will ask you, I would ask my husband, why this, why that. I'll try to convince him. I said, nope, I'm not budging. I'm not budging at all. She said, then in all honesty, then I think I wouldn't speak to him for the time period, at least that my mom is there. I don't know if I would be able to speak to him. And I said, Jazakallahu khair. That was honesty. I would never do that. That's the disclaimer. I would never do that, nor did I ever plan to do that. But the point was, will she be honest in how she would behave? If she were to have said to me, I have to obey my husband, a sister has to obey her husband, would that be honest? That would not have been honest. If she would have said, of course, I'll listen to you. Doesn't matter. What do you mean? Your mother who raised you your entire life, you don't care? There's no way. There's no way you won't feel anything, that you won't be upset, etc. So I asked a question that I obviously would never do this. Her mother is just like my own mother. However, it was a test to see how she would act and how she would behave in that scenario, to see whether or not she would be honest. So my goal from the question had nothing to even do with the question. I didn't need to know the answer of that. I needed to know whether or not she would be honest about how she would act and how she would behave. And so you ask questions, scenario questions, because it will tell you if the person is going to be honest or not, and it's going to tell you how this person will actually behave in that scenario, and if you can deal with that or not. Likewise, questions that now are specific to the brothers. Questions that brothers should ask sisters, especially in this time that we are living in now. And then after that, we'll go to questions sisters should ask brothers. So first and foremost, in the time that we are living in, we know one of the things that are affecting our sisters the most is the feminist movement. If there are sisters who are not aware of it, alhamdulillah. But those of them who are aware of it and aware of its evils and have been affected by it, then it becomes crucial for a brother to get an idea of what a particular sister believes regarding this movement. Or to ask her, even if it's not about the specific movement, but some of its principles, some of the things that they teach women today. To ask her about that and ask her what she feels about it. Do you think that men and women are equal? Do you believe that a woman should not have to obey her husband? Do you believe that a woman can make her own decisions and does not have to ask her husband for permission? All of these types of things. You ask about these things to see whether or not a sister is affected by these ideologies. Because if it is, then that is going to cause a clash in the marriage. It's going to cause a clash in the marriage. And you can connect it back to what we mentioned in the first lecture yesterday, how the Western culture and the Western ideologies, from the ways that it affects marriage, is the role reversals, as we mentioned. When the roles are reversed, and women are becoming men, and men are becoming women. Likewise, ask about the mahar. You ask about the dowry. Does she expect 50K from the brother that's working at Amazon delivery? Is that a realistic expectation? If it is, she's going to be waiting for a very long time. Allahu Ustadh. If the brother is someone who is suitable, but he can't get married because what he has to save is 50K. He may not save that in his entire lifetime. If he's a brother who just has a regular job. And so you find out about that. You find out about also the wedding, how she sees her wedding day. What does she plan to do? Does she plan to have a huge wedding hall and a DJ and any Somali singer flown all the way from Hargeisa, all right, to perform at her wedding while she holds hands with him? Allahu Ustadh, as we see today. She dances, she has one dance with him too, right? It has to happen. Allahu Ustadh. Is that what she expects? You have to find that out before marriage, before you're surprised on the wedding day. You have to know that before you ever go into this situation. And don't only believe that non-practicing sisters are the ones that do this. No, that day, no one's practicing, trust me. That day, that one night, it's, let me breathe, akhi. Let me breathe one last time, that's what it is. Allah Ustadh. This is the reality that we live in today. And so you have to ask these questions and discuss these things ahead of time. Sometimes it may not even be the sister that wants to make these decisions, that is her mother or her aunts or other relatives that have a hand in the marriage. And if you find that and you know that haram is going to happen, my advice is do not get married to that sister. Wallahi, if that's even the day before the wedding, end everything. هذا النصيحة مني لك. Do not marry a sister who wants you to begin your union with haram. No matter what she says in terms of her deen, in terms of her practicing, because if she would not put the foot down in that moment for a day of haram and did not listen to you, that is what you're going to deal with in your marriage. If she tells you, oh, but my mother, oh, but my aunts, or they're saying this about me and that about me, later on it's going to be the same thing with your children, doing this and that, but my mom, but my aunties, but my sister, but this, but this. That is what you're going to deal with in your marriage. And so these things are crucial to discuss before marriage. Likewise, the dress code in weddings, these weddings, what women wear most of the time is not permissible. Most of the time, some sisters, the stuff that they wear in weddings is not even permissible between women and women, let alone men. That's how revealing it is. And so if this is going to exist, then stay away from a marriage like that. Stay away from a marriage like that. And in all honesty, in the times that we live in today, many of our sisters, and it's unfortunate because it goes back to not learning about the purpose of marriage and why we even get married in the first place. And the reason why this exists is because, the result of that is that many of our sisters are not marrying to be married and stay married. Rather, they're marrying for the wedding day. They're marrying for that celebration, for it to be recorded and be put on social media, and she had her day where everyone celebrated her. And then after that, it's as if you're living with a roommate, not a wife. And this is part of the Western culture and all of these things that we're mentioning, the negative effects that it has with the Muslims, is from this angle. Discuss also the harms that these extravagant weddings have. From the Sunnah, where the Prophet ﷺ said in the Hadith, where the best type of marriage is aysaruh, is the most easy, and the lesser in terms of extravagance that a marriage is, and a wedding is, and a mahr is, the more barakah is going to be placed in that marriage. This is wahy. This is the Prophet ﷺ's words. So a sister, do you want a successful marriage? Or do you just want a day where you can be celebrated, not caring about halal and haram, not caring about what will happen in your marriage? Do you want a long-lasting marriage with happiness, with your husband, with your children, etc.? Or are you only concerned about that specific day and to celebrate that specific day? Likewise, from another hadith where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned that the easier that a woman makes the mahr for the man who is going to marry her, then the easier Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes labor for her. That Allah will make her giving birth easy for her. Allah will make it easy for her. This is likewise the words of your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is a great reward in making it easy. Why? Because when you make marriage easy, then more people will get married. And when more people get married, as we mentioned previously, it helps the society. It betters the society. So the reward for that, since it's something great that a sister is doing, she is rewarded with that. She is rewarded with a blessed marriage, and she is rewarded with Allah making labor easy for her and delivering a child easy for her. And in reality, something that is crucial that parents and even sisters who are requesting high and expensive dowries, what they neglect is that while we find many of these marriages ending, is because, and they think that, and we have this concept, and this is from the harms of just following culture instead of deen, is that some mothers, and usually from the mother's side or the aunties and things like that, is that they believe that if their daughter receives a low mahr, that means she's cheap. That means she's cheap. She's going to be seen as cheap, and it's going to be spreading in the community that, oh, did you hear how much so-and-so's daughter was married for? Did you hear about her mahr? Subhanallah. They probably, committed zina and they're just, wala asturaya, basically. That's how they speak. They're basically just trying to hide their shame. That's why they just agree to a small mahr. You see what I mean? That is the mentality of some people. And that if she gets 50K, 20K, 30K, that means this is a girl with sharaf, with nobility, and she comes from a noble family. So they directly link how much money she is given on her mahr to her value. So your daughter to you is worth 20K? Your daughter is worth 50K? My daughter has no value. I don't know about you, but my daughter has no value. Even $1 million is not enough. So the money is not what determines whether or not she is good. As a parent, what you are supposed to look at is, if first of all this person is good and he has deen and he has akhlaq and everything, that your daughter in her marriage is an easy marriage full of barakah. That is what you should be concerned with as a parent. But what happens is that when the man is made to pay these extravagant amounts, and he pays, well, let's say 20K or 30K for a wedding, or for the mahar, and then another 20, 30K for a wedding, and then the dress is shipped from another country, and all of these different things are happening, and the wedding is being planned for months and months, that man is going to feel the burden that he went through, years and years and years of saving money, and then he puts it down for a couple of hours. It's not like the wedding lasts a week, right? The wedding lasts a couple of hours, and 50K was spent for a couple of hours. And then what happens? He goes home and he says, sweetheart, can you cook something for me? No, you have Uber Eats. You have hands. You have feet. Go cook yourself. You think that man is going to be patient in a marriage? A marriage that he paid all of his life savings for? That is what happens. Psychologically, he becomes frustrated and he cannot tolerate anything. Any little mistake that she makes is going to be as if she committed a crime, as if she murdered someone. And then what happens is he ends up divorcing her, because he believes he put money, this much money up, so that he gets everything that he's looking for in a wife. But when he doesn't get that, then he can't tolerate anything. All he's going to be remembering every night while he's in bed with his wife, he's going to be thinking, 50K for this? 100K for this? This is what he's going to be thinking. And that marriage is over. All that's going to be playing in his mind is the money that he spent and that he lost, only not to be happy, only not to have the wife that he was thinking that he was going to have. Whereas if he marries a sister who made everything easy and a family that made everything easy for him, he is going to be able to tolerate much. He's going to be very patient. If she makes mistakes, if she falls short in this and that, he's going to be happy, because he's always going to be thinking of how this woman saved him from the trials and tribulations of this dunya. And she made marrying her easy for him. And so he's going to shower her with everything that he has after that, because she made it easy for him. However, the one who makes it difficult for him, you will see it, sister, in his behavior towards you. You will see it in how he speaks towards you. You will see it in how he has lack of patience with you and no tolerance, because all that's on his mind is all his life savings going down the drain in a couple of hours. That is all that he's going to be thinking of. Allahul Musta'an. And also, sisters, know that only you can, you're the only one who is going to feel the pain of that. All of these people that tell you, no, you have to ask for this and you have to ask for that, they are not the ones who are going to be suffering with you in your marriage. They are not the ones who are going to suffer after, let's say you have a child or another child and then you are divorced and now you are a single mother. They're not the ones who are going to be there for you then. Those same people who advised you with this nonsense before and made you think like this, you won't find them there helping you and supporting you then. They will be there to advise you when they're trying to destroy your life, but they will not be there to advise you and help you when you now are dealing with the fruits of their advice. When you are now living the result of the advice that they gave you and they misguided you in this way, they will not be there to help you afterwards. Likewise, brothers, ask a sister about her expectations in terms of her living standards. If this is a sister who lived in a mansion, for example, and you're in what you guys call here Section 8, right? You may not be able to give her what she's used to, right? You may not be able to provide what she's used to. So look for a sister who you are able to maintain the lifestyle that she was living. You are able to maintain the lifestyle that she was living. And this is something mentioned by the fuqaha. When they mention that what is the nafaqah, what is the money or the spending that a woman is deserving of, the fuqaha, for example from the Hanabila and the like, they mention that you have to maintain the living standard that she lived with. So if when she was living in her family's house, she was like middle class and the like, that is also likewise what she deserves. If she's okay with less than that, then it's up to her. then it's up to her to be okay with that. But that you force her to live in that standard and to be okay with it when she never was in the past, then that is not correct as well. So you have to ask about that ahead of time so you know what you're getting yourself into. Likewise, ask her about in-laws, so your side of the family. What she believes her relationship should be with your mother and your father and your siblings and the like. Does she believe that she should have a good relationship with your mother? Or, no, I cannot see that woman, she can never step foot in my house. As some sisters have that belief. So you have to ask about that ahead of time. Likewise, ask her about her role as a wife. What is her role as a wife? And for her to mention those things. What is her duty towards you as her husband? What are her rights? What does she believe her rights are? Alaykum as-salaam wa rahmatullah. What does she believe her rights are in terms of marriage? And what are her duties as it pertains to marriage? Likewise, ask her about submission. What does she understand submission to be? That a woman should be submissive to her husband. She should submit to her husband and obey her husband. What does she feel towards that? And what does she think it means? Likewise, ask her about femininity. What does it mean to be feminine? And some sisters have this idea that if I find a good husband and he treats me right and he gives me everything I want, then I will bring out my feminine side. It's a tit for a tat. So where was the femininity before that? Where was it before? Being feminine is something in your fitrah as a woman. It is exactly what makes you a woman. It is the trait of a woman. And likewise for a man, being masculine is from the traits of being a man. So if a man were to say, yes sister, if you obey me and you cook for me and you clean my home and you raise my children, then and only then will I provide for you. Who's going to accept that? That how we behave in our natural state is conditional upon whether or not we get what we want. There's no such thing as that. That has no basis in our deen whatsoever. That a woman in her natural state is feminine and behaves feminine. And a man in his natural state behaves masculine. It does not mean that the man oppresses his authority and uses his authority to oppress his wife, and that she has no say and that she should just be a robot. That's not what that means. But it means that he is the authority since he is the provider, since he is the one taking care of her and the like. But that he also consults his wife, gives her her opinion, discusses things with her and the like. And he has the final say as a man. He has the final say as a man. Likewise, ikhwa, ask the sister that you wish to marry, what is the purpose of marriage altogether? Why do people get married? What is the purpose of marriage in Islam? Likewise, ask her about materialism and what role does materialism play in her life? Is that something that she requires to be happy? Does she believe that having gifts and buying her things and the like is something necessary for her to be happy or not? Ask her, and this is very important, what is it that men want in women? What is it in terms of character traits and the like? See if she knows that. See if this sister is aware of what it is that men like and what men dislike. So what is it that men are seeking in women? And see if she knows that. See if she knows that. Likewise, ask with regards to hijrah. If you are a brother who wishes to do whatever you need to do and you're here living in the West, but your ultimate goal is to leave the West and make hijrah to one of the Muslim lands, ask her before marriage what her view is on that. Don't ignore that topic, and then when you're married to her, after a couple of years, you bring it up and say, I'm leaving. And she says, no, I don't want to leave my parents. This is something you have to talk about beforehand. And not only the idea of of hijrah, but also where specifically, because she may be okay with certain countries but not okay with others that you may be okay with. So it is important to discuss these things before marriage. Now the questions that sisters should be asking brothers before marriage. Similarly, asking a brother, what is the purpose of marriage in Islam? What is the purpose of marriage in Islam? Likewise, ask him, what is his role as a husband? What is his role? What is his role in terms of providing? What is his role in terms of his duties towards you as his wife? What is his role in terms of the upbringing of the children and raising of the children and spending time with the children, even if he works, even if he does this, even if he does that? That there has to be time that he spends with his children and that they have a relationship with him inside the house, that he takes them to play, he takes them to different places, that they experience those things with him. Does he plan to do that, or does he believe that that is just for the mother to do? All right, you ask him ahead of time. Ask him likewise, what is his idea of a healthy marriage? What does a healthy, good marriage look like? Likewise, ask him what he has in terms of his views with in-laws. What does he believe his relationship should be with your mother, for example, and your father, and your brothers, for example? How should he be with them? Should he be contacting them, have a relationship with them in terms of contacting them, messaging them, seeing how they are, that if they need anything that he's there for them, and then have this discussion with him ahead of time. That you ask him also, what are the rights of his wife upon him? Islamically, what are his rights, or what are his wife's rights upon him? Does he believe that merely providing shelter and clothes is sufficient? That is all that he is responsible for? That if he provides financially, that he's done his job? Is that what he believes, or is there more to being a husband and a father than that? Ask him also about the nature of women. What does he know about women? What does he know about women's behavior? How is he in terms of understanding that and being able to cater to women the way they are? Or does he believe that the way he should deal with women is exactly how he deals with his friends, for example, other men? That he speaks to her in that way. A lot of brothers are like, SubhanAllah, am I speaking Chinese? How come she doesn't understand what I'm saying to her, right? Many brothers are like that, thinking that the way that a woman understands things is similar to how he would, or how his friends are, and how his friends would understand things. That you have to be able to speak to a woman in a certain way, and it could be specific to that specific sister. It may not be something universal amongst all women, but you have to learn the specific woman that you are married to and find out exactly how she likes to be communicated with and how you can get to a proper solution with regards to anything. That you learn about her behavior, you learn how she likes to be spoken to, and what would be the crime if, for example, because one mistake that a lot of brothers make is he believes he's making a point, and then she believes the point is not made because of how he said it. Because of how he spoke, your point is no longer valid. And that brother will not budge. He will still continue to make the point in the same way, right? Thinking that, no, this is the truth. Why doesn't she accept it? You as a man, is your goal to simply be listened to? Or is your goal for the thing to actually be solved? Because if you overlook certain things, and if you change the way you present something for the sake of your wife, wait, is this your enemy? What's the problem by changing how you present something or how you say something for the sake of your wife? And vice versa, even for the wife, for her to change her tone and for her to speak in a respectful manner and in a soft manner to her husband. What is the problem with that? Is this not the closest person to you in the world? Is this not the person who you share the most intimate of matters with? What is the issue that a brother or a sister cannot come down to the level of their spouse in order for the success of the marriage to continue and for that relationship to continue in harmony? The problem is that people have arrogance and everyone is stuck in their ways and does not want to change, it does not want to budge. They don't want to budge, and then that harms the marriage. The brother likewise should ask about any future plans in hijrah and the like. That he finds out about, the sister asks about the brother if he has any plans for hijrah. If she is someone who is adamant about hijrah, then he has to ask her, she has to ask him, do you plan to make hijrah? If so, which countries do you plan to go to, and the like. And that if she's 100% she does not want to stay in this country, then she should only settle for a brother who does want to leave and has that in common with her. Likewise, she should ask in terms of work and career. What does the brother do for work? Is it halal? Is it haram? How does he earn his living? And that, will it be sufficient to provide for a family? A sister should also ask her brother, what does he believe are some things that lead to divorce? Meaning, what is his idea of a woman that should be divorced? And then she should see from that if he believes like little things, that if she just speaks to me one way one day, that's it, I'm divorcing her on the spot. Then she knows that he does not have much tolerance or patience for anything. And so, if they have an agreement on what leads to divorce and what would necessitate divorce, any great matters or grave matters, serious things that lead to divorce that there's no way back from, and there's no reconciliation that can happen, or no advice to either party, or any overlooking some faults, and none of that can happen. If the two are in agreement that at this point is where divorce should be discussed, then that is something that they should consider one another with. However, if they disagree on what necessitates divorce, then that is not a person that you should marry. In conclusion, and that concludes the different matters that one should look into before marriage and the questions that should be asked. In conclusion, my advice is that brothers and sisters really use this type of talk or this type of lecture as a guideline, and you can add also to this. What I mention here is not everything that there is to know about a person or everything that you should ask about a person. You should take these points and add. If you deem other things to be important that were not mentioned in this lecture, then you add it and you use that, inshallah ta'ala, in any process that you go through in someone that you are trying to marry. Excuse me. The reason is that why things like this are important, or knowing these types of things are important, is because, as we mentioned in the beginning of the lecture, that most marriages fail due to lack of preparation, due to lack of knowing what to even look for in a spouse, what to even ask when you are getting married, what answers to expect after you ask your questions. And so it's crucial then to take that process seriously. It plays a huge role in the success of your marriage. When you look at all of these affairs and you do not settle, as we mentioned in the beginning, for the person that you do not want. If there are major issues, major things that someone mentions that you know about yourself, there's no way you can tolerate this, then you should not settle for that. You should not settle for that. Likewise, another reason why marriages fail in reality, which is unfortunate, is the lack of preparation from the parents' side. Parents do not raise their kids preparing them to be future parents. That the child is just a child, plays with toys and watches cartoons when they're young, and they get a little older, they start playing outside, they become teenagers, adults. No one ever taught them anything about, taught the boys anything about being a husband and being a father in the future. His father doesn't sit him down and teach him how to be a man and the like. And the mothers don't sit their daughters down and teach them how to be a woman and prepare them for marriage and how to raise children and how to be with her husband. And the father doesn't teach his son how to be with his wife in the future and the like. This does not happen. And many people go into marriages blind, and then discord happens right from the beginning of the marriage. Another big issue is brothers not knowing, for example, how to deal with women and the nature of women. And likewise, sisters not knowing the nature of men and how to deal with men. Likewise, one should know that marriage is not something that is going to come naturally, especially if it's the first time that you've been married, that there's going to be a learning curve. The two people do not know one another. It is two strangers that are coming together in one household who are learning one another. Especially in the beginning stages of marriage, there's going to be a lot of hiccups. There's going to be a lot of things where you're going to say to yourself, SubhanAllah, this person that I was getting to know all this time, he seems different or she seems different. And that is because when you live with someone and when you just know someone from discussions is different. Even brothers themselves or sisters themselves. Someone you know outside and you meet them outside. The only place you know them is outside. You have friends, right, that you chill with when you're outside, or you go to the masjid together and you go to durus together. But if you go on a trip together and stay in a hotel with that brother for 3 days, that is the only time you actually get to know him. Right? Turn off the AC. Who's doing this? Who's doing that? Who? You see his underwear on your head when you wake up. Allah musta'an. What are you doing? Right? Messy and everything's all over the place. This is when you really get to know the person in their actual natural habitat. And so don't be alarmed then when you are with someone in the beginning stages of marriage. There's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be getting to know one another. There's going to be a little, I'll say a few months to a year where you are learning one another and you start to get to know this person for who they truly are. And so don't look at this situation as this person deceived me. Rather, just know that no one can actually tell you who they actually are 100%. You will not be able to get an idea of a person, the true identity of this person, until you marry them. And so unless there are extreme situations or very bad situations that occur in the marriage, do not rush to divorce. Do not allow shaitan to whisper to you and make you think that you've made a bad decision and the like. That in reality, everyone goes through these things at the beginning stages of marriage. And after you get over that, you and your husband or the brother, you and your wife, once you get over that hump, then you will even become closer. The two of you will become even closer. Inshallah, we'll conclude there. I intended to do the Q&A after this lecture, and then so we can allow everyone to go home after Isha, but it seems like that won't be possible. So we'll conclude there, and I guess we'll have to do the Q&A after Salatul Isha, inshallah ta'ala. So we have a lecture after Salatul Maghrib entitled How to Prepare for Marriage. And it will be in general and also specific to brothers and specific to sisters, inshallah ta'ala. So we'll see everyone after Salatul Maghrib. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.